So, good morning. My name is Stefano Rigano. I'm a UI and user experience designer at Odoo since 3 years. During these years, I worked on the restyling of the Odoo.com website. Sorry. Our friends at home. Okay. Okay, so I was responsible for the restyling of the website project, for the user interface of Odoo Studio, for the new interface of version 11, and for Odoo SH, basically. Today, we will talk about the vision of the Odoo Design team, and we will talk especially about the Odoo Design culture, how to integrate the design into your company workflow, and what is the Odoo Design evolution. If we will have time, we will have also a question-answer part. I hope so. So, let's start by the design culture of Odoo. I would like to start with a quote from Andrea Mallard, the Omada Health CMO, that basically say that if you want to use design in your company, you shouldn't just hire 2 designers, place them in a designer room, and expect that they magically make design. Because this is not design, this is graphic works. And so, design is not a department. Of course, you can have a design department, but design in a company is more a discipline. And the idea is to bring the entire company around to follow shared design principles. Each company can have different principles. In our case, our principles are beauty, so they like the user with a graceful user interface. We know that our users spend tons of hours in front of their computer because they have to work with that software. So one of our first principle, of course, is to make sure that this user interface is comfortable to work with. Another one is consistency, so applying the same solution to same problems across different products. We have tons of applications. Our application can be extended by other modules, and this could generate different design issues. For example, how do you enable a certain functionality? How I can disable it? So all of these are small design problems that can be solved in different ways. One of our principles is to use consistency in order to try to solve always the same problem in the same way. In this way, the user will not feel lost using our software, because if the user knows that he can perform a specific action using the project module, chances are that he can use the same functionality also in the sales module, for example. Another principle for us is clarity. It's about eliminate ambiguities. The user should act with confidence. If you need a manual in order to use a software, it probably means that the software is not well designed. You should immediately understand how the software works just looking at it. This is, of course, the target, the main aim. There is always a learning curve, so you can't expect that the user immediately understands everything, but you should at least guide the user in order to properly understand how the software works. And you can do that trying to focus on clarity. I made you an example. These are the records of the Kanban view in version 10 and in version 11. Basically, they have the same functionality, active right now. These 2 records have 2 different tags. In the version 11 is clear, that this tag is framework, and this one is UI, for example. But in version 10, it was a little bit more cryptical. you should know exactly, you should remember that the yellow color is the UI one. And if one of your colleagues changes the color, it's a mess. So this was not clear, it was functional, but we decided to improve it, pointing on clarity. If you have questions, you can interrupt me in any moment. Yeah?
You mentioned consistency.
Yeah.
Usually tags are framed in color.
Yeah. Yeah, but we use label too. We have different kind of elements. We try to use, I know it could seem selfish, but we try to be consistent with ourselves at first. So we have two different kind of graphic elements that are similar to tags, and we have the tags and the label. It could be tricky. In this particular case, this element is very zoomed right now, but we know that this element have 250 pixel width, so it's very small. Usually you have like 20 or 30 of this element just in a view when you open the company view. So it's very tricky to implement a perfect tag with the perfect, but it was a good point. But in this particular case, and I will talk later about how we decide which priority give to these keywords. In this particular case, we decide to use this other style for the tags. Another keyword is efficiency. It's about anticipate needs. We know that our user follow certain steps all the times. So they first enter in the application, they create a new element, they press the determinate button. So we can predict, we can expect what the user will do. And this is the right place in order to apply some design shortcuts, we call it. So like try to prevent the user and give to him what he needs in that particular moment. And so now our priorities, how we order these keywords, because each time you are faced with that design problem, you have to decide on which keywords you want to give more priority. So our first priority is clarity. We want that really people immediately understand what the user interface is saying. Then we have consistency. And consistency is super important, but at the same time, there is no point to have something that is consistent but is not very good. So this is why we decide to give more importance to clarity. Then we have efficiency, of course. It's not on the top, because when you apply design shortcuts, chances are that you lost new user meanwhile. Because the pro user will be super fast. Okay, good, I have a design shortcut here, I have a shortcuts here, I can click on this button and skip all the steps, but new users will be lost. So efficiency is super important, especially in Odoo. We spend a lot of time trying to improve the speed of the operation, but in this particular case, we prefer to give more priority to consistency and clarity. And then we have beauty, and I'm a designer, so it's weird to me to place beauty at the end of a list, any list, but in this case, since those are our keywords in general, is always in a good position. I mean, we take care a lot about design. And yeah, any question on this? So this is the way how we work. It really depends by your business, your company. So you can decide to place your keywords, or if you have other keywords, in different way. This is how we work. So the next step is how to integrate design into the workflow. Before I say that it doesn't make sense to create a designer's room and place designers there. And talking about approach, the common one is the make things look pretty one. When I first entered in Odoo, developers were working on everything. They implement all the features, they create the layout, there is the menu, the button, the functionality. At the end, someone comes to my room saying, okay, make this looks pretty, you have 1 week, and of course, it creates issues. Yeah, involved designers stated the problem. This, we discovered that doesn't work. I mean, it could work, it really depends by the application, but the best way, no, I changed it, okay, I changed the order. So, which are the problems? The problems are that the workflow is slower, I will explain later why, that any prior choose or not choose will impact the design anyway, because when it has been decided before to place the sidebar in that particular position with that particular combination of buttons, this choice will impact the design anyway. And by design, I mean graphic design and user experience design. So you could end up with poor user experience result. And it could generate conflicts too, because designers will not feel involved, and most important, other people don't understand why. At the end of their work is just to make things pretty, right? So what's the problem? If you involve designer from the beginning instead, you can use design as a problem-solving tool. I want just to give you 2 examples of this approach. One is to use design mockups as roadmaps for team to work. And another one is the designer's unlock power that I will explain later what is it. So about the roadmaps, when you don't have a mockup, all the discussion about how to create an application are verbally, orally, with the long list of features and the specification that have to be followed, with email that you receive explaining you how to change the functionality because we discovered that there is an issue in that particular case, so you should change it now, it's important. Then chat, because your colleague contacts you on chat saying, oh, you know what, we had a meeting yesterday, you should change that feature again. And of course, you can also refer to other apps made by other competitors, you know? There is always like that phrase like, okay, you know what, we could do something like Google that, or our competitors. At the end of all this process, if you are very clever and smart, maybe you made an idea in your mind about what will be the final look of the application, but it's very uncommon that all the people working in the team share the same view, you know? And we tried to do something different when we first started working on Studio. And we create a mockup first. This helped so much, I think, the developers to create this application. It was a super rush. They had just 6 months to complete the entire application, and thanks to all their efforts, we succeed to maintain the deadline. But I would like to say that this approach helps so much, because each developer knows exactly how to visualize the application in their mind. And it also provides a guideline for project manager in order to understand how to proceed, and for usability expert to spot issues on the design. And of course, you can extend this concept even more. These are mock-up for version 11 with detailed information about spacing, font size, and other kind of information that the developer could use to implement the user interface. If you don't provide this kind of information, the work of the developer will be much more slower. And of course, you can provide also interaction information too. This is not like a monolithic approach. These mockups change during time. It's part of the flow of the progress, but at least all the team have a reference to work with. So another quote from Daniel Burka, don't tell me what you mean, show me what you mean. This is very helpful, especially if you work with huge teams. And this could help us to introduce the unlock power, designer's power I was talking about. Basically, I think that always you had this kind of meeting where everything should go flawless, but at the end it ends up like this. You don't get it, you understand my idea, I have a wonderful idea, why no one understands my idea, okay? And the unlock power of the designer is that designers can help the team to visualize the idea. In the initial part of the process, when we are starting to make, I don't know, brainstorm meeting, trying to understand how the application should look like, the designer could help everyone involved in the project to create rapid mock-ups and visualize the idea. The solution to the problems are in your company. 99% are expressed verbally. And the problem with the verbal discussion is that what I'm saying maybe is not exactly what you're understanding. And this is normal. It's part of the misunderstanding of our oral language. But if I made a very fast prototype mock-up of your idea, maybe I will not get it exactly, but at least we have something to work on. And we have something that we can share with the rest of the team, and we can discuss together. So this is why we call it unlock power, because unlock friction and block situation, allowing the team to move forward. Design, and by design I mean graphic design, user experience design, organization and design of the team can potentially solve any problem, but designers are not experts in any problem. And this is important to say because I want to point the fact that these skills and these superpowers that I told you before works only when you share it with your team. So in Odoo philosophy, the designer is really at the service of the team, helping people to visualize and make real their ideas. We have time? Yeah? Okay. So a little show of our design evolution since version 8. This was the version 8. And the idea behind was we don't use design, we don't have designers, so why we should care about design? We just use Bootstrap, okay? But actually this is design, it's a design choice. You choose a framework, you choose a set of colors, you choose a layout, you choose the spacing between the tests, and this will impact the user experience. So, of course, the usability team start to write notes and say, you know what, we should increase the size of this button, we should change the color because the default Bootstrap color doesn't match the needs in this particular case. So at the end, you finish to extend the Bootstrap, changing it, you change the nature of the framework, and so you end up with something else. And it's a new design without designers. And in version 9, it ends up to a different design. This was a little bit of revolution, let's say. It was based on Google Material Design in the Odoo way. So the features and the behavior of the graphical element of default Bootstrap, of default Material Design are different. And this concept went further with version 10 and now with version 11. The difference between 11 and 10 is subtle, I will say. It's very small, but you will notice that working on it, actually. There is a lot of efforts behind part of our user experience team that spend basically 1 year working on any single detail in order to spot all the issues that were with the version 10 design. Just to give you an example, the padding on this page is very small, so the text is attached to the border of the sheet. And here we give a little bit more space, so the text is much easier to read. Or the design of the tabs, for example. In this case, there are links. You see that? Sorry? Invoice lines, other info. There are links, muted or not, and here is much more clear what is the functionality of the tabs. So there are a lot of small improvements that we made to the footer. Okay. Question and answer. If you have any question about how we work with design in Odoo, yeah.
Were you also, from the beginning, involved in the design of the rainbow map?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that one is a particular case in which beauty is more important than consistency or effectivity. Yeah, that one was just. That one was like, okay, you can have fun, design whatever you want. So we just place how many color we want, and we made the rainbow when stuff. Yes.
Responsive, you first designed for mobile, then upwards, or first for desktop and then mobile?
The form view, the chatter?
No, I mean your design.
Yeah.
I read that it's better to design first for the mobile and then.
Yeah, the framework Bootstrap is mobile first, and the approach that we're using is mobile first. But this was before that we implemented the mobile apps that we are releasing right now. So we still maintain responsiveness for a small device on the web version, but almost all our efforts this year have been to improve the mobile apps themselves. It's a reply to your question? Yeah? Okay. Yeah?
Why don't you use social colors like red, green, orange, more generally? Like, for example, availability of material or stuff like this. It's not obvious. And there are obvious colors. Most people agreed.
You mean functionality color, like danger button, warning button? Okay, we use them. We have a danger color and a warning color. But I do agree with the fact that this color here is too much close. This is the primary button. It's the button that you use in Odoo to do everything. It's like any main action is green, and by chance green is also the color of the success button in Bootstrap, you know. So we still respect the pattern. We still have warning buttons and danger colors, for example, but we try to limit the use of success in some case, and we go strict with the primary. Oops, sorry.
One more example. Do you have the inventory dashboard somewhere?
I can have it, I think. Inventory, yeah.
Okay. Why is the receipt button not gray? So I have a difference between what I have to do and what I don't have to do.
This one,
Yeah.
you mean?
Should be gray, not green.
You're right. Yeah.
And it's always
Actually, it should
why
not be.
nobody did think about it.
Actually, it should not be a button, in my opinion. It should be just a text saying that you didn't receive nothing. Yeah. Yeah, this is the issue fast development. You know, you are very fast. You develop a lot of feature, and you can end up with issue like that. They're not great issue, but I agree is misleading for the user. It's like, okay, why I have to click on something that say red? I agree, you're right. I think that we will fix it like very soon. So thank you. This is how we rely in our community to fix this kind of issues. So thanks.
Are you able to modify any of the colors in version 11 now? Like customize it to you?
Yeah.
Customize it to yourself?
If you want to customize the color, there is a set of less files in the, depending if you are in enterprise or community, in which enterprise, okay. So web _ enterprise module, you go in the static folder in the less file, and you will find a file called variable.less.
Yeah.
That file contains all the main variable that we use. There is also a bootstrap overridden file that is specifically for overwrite bootstrap variables. So with the combination of the two, you can change basically all the colors of the user interface. Of course, you have to take care about don't change the brand danger, brand info, brand warning, as we said before, because yeah, otherwise it will be tricky for the user.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions? Thank you.